I'm Laura Ingraham. This is a special edition of the Ingraham Angle, America at a Crossroads. Now, tonight's special is going to address issues in our politics and our culture that are dividing America right in two, and what we can do to remedy this. Now, we begin tonight with President Trump's decision to give Attorney General Bill Barr the authority to declassify documents that were related to the 2016 campaign surveillance. Now, first and foremost, Americans need to understand that their government has their best interests at heart, always. And when it became clear that some within the upper echelons of the DOJ, FBI, and CIA and other intel organizations may have had their thumb on the political scale, well, a lot of Americans were rightly outraged. They want to believe in their government. That's why it is so stunning to see Democratic politicians sworn to uphold the Constitution fight so hard to conceal present threats to it. Now, take House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff. He called Trump's decision to give the public more information un-American. Now, if we can't even agree upon basic set of standards under which these powerful organizations can act, especially in relation to the American people, then we are indeed at a crossroads. Now, Trump addressed this issue from just outside the White House this afternoon. Let's watch.
I declassified everything they want. I put it under the auspices of the Attorney General. He's going to be in charge of it. I don't want him to be for me or for anybody else. I just want him to be fair, and that's what he is. And we're going to find out what this yields. We're exposing everything. We're being, a word that you like, transparent. We're being transparent. And that's what it's about.
Transparency used to be a good word, right? We used to like it. Sunshine, it's a great disinfectant. But apparently not when President Trump is advocating for it. Joining me now with a reaction, Harmeet Dillon, attorney and member of the Trump 2020 Advisory Council, Matt Schlapp, chair of the American Conservative Union, and Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President Obama. Great to see you all now on a Friday night. Joel, I want to start with you. Now, the left is accusing Trump of some grand cover-up. Now, why would he urge the Attorney General to declassify all this information if there were all these nuggets and bits and pieces that were going to incriminate him or anyone in his campaign?
Yeah, Laura, you're right to ask that question, and transparency is good. And I think where we're concerned and where Democrats are coming out on this is that there needs to be, for example, an unredaction of the Mueller report, that if we want transparency, let's really get it all out there. But to have it in one direction and potentially to unmask American spies or those helping the United States and our national security, that's very risky and very dangerous.
You're saying competing things. And, Matt, you know, we can unredact. There are very few, not very much of the Mueller report is not available to the, especially members of Congress who can go read it and read it almost in its entirety with a few redactions. Some of that are probably very sensitive sourcing information and methodology. But this is kind of wild. I find this to be weird because I remember the Democrats when they're all like, you got to get the man, and the man's going to keep info for us, and the FBI is going to hurt the regular people. And now it's the shoes on the other foot here. Now they're the big defenders of the spying agencies, regardless of how much power they have.
Yeah, and it really, I think you started off talking about how we're trying to heal the rift. You heal the rift by exposing what happened under the Obama, Biden at the end of their term, what was done against their political opponents, why did they let loose the FBI and other agencies to go after their political opponents. Let's put it all out there. By the way, Laura, if they have good answers, then let's move beyond this. And I think that is the key in all this, which is somehow we skipped over the Obama wrongdoing, moved right to faux Trump crimes, and we've been stuck on this Russia collusion thing. It's time to get to the real story.
Well, John Kerry is one of the people who's mentioned in some of the stories about the circle. There was a very tight circle they kept. Harmeet, I want you to chime in here. We learned more about how they met and how they discussed the origins of this probe and their concerns about Russia in the election. So initially it was Brennan, Clapper, Comey, and I'm missing one. Brennan, Clapper, Comey, and Lynch, Loretta Lynch. So it was very tight. Then it expanded and included Vice President Biden, Kerry, and Ash Carter, and I guess the President of the United States was eventually brought into the loop. This is fascinating, how we're learning how Brennan would brief the president and keep the info out of the daily intel briefing. That came out in the New York Times today. I think we're going to learn a lot more just about that. Very interesting double cone of silence, if you will.
Absolutely, Laura. And some of the other things that we're getting reminded about right now is the fact that British intelligence tipped the Obama administration in 2015 about alleged hacking by the Russians against the DNC. But they didn't do anything about it until very late in the game and until it was clear that, they had lost that election. And then, everything fell into place very quickly. And so, what Nancy Pelosi and her colleagues Schiff and others are doing today is gaslighting the American people by calling the exposure of a cover-up and of a plot a cover-up itself. I mean, language has no meaning with these people. This is kind of an Orwellian doublespeak that's going on right now. I think the president is exactly right to delegate this authority to somebody who has a long history of knowing how to parse out confidential and highly
but they're trashing Barr.
And sensitive
no, they're trashing Barr, though,
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Barr is now like what Halliburton was in the Bush years. It's like Barr, Halliburton. It's like they have to have the bête noire. They've got to have the
he's a punching
doer.
bag for them, of
Yeah,
course.
but
the president is, and it's become illogical. I mean, we heard that from Joel just now that we should unmask. We should unmask, and we should reveal all the sensitive intelligence that Barr and others and Mueller thought should be redacted in the Mueller report. But then we should not ask any questions about how we got there. It's very clear to most Americans now that the entire process was illegitimate because the results are nothing, a big goose egg. And yet there's
the media. We got to talk about media role. Hold on, guys. We got to talk about the media's role in this because I think that's part of why we're in this place we're in right now, where people can't even agree on basic terminology. And right now, they're freaking out. The American media is freaking out over more transparency. I've never seen anything like it.
Donald is obviously melting down. There's no doubt that he's every bit as unhinged as he was during the heat of the Mueller investigation.
Barr has proven himself, in my humble opinion, sort of the trained seal of the administration.
The idea of giving William Barr the power to declassify all of the material within the intelligence community is really unprecedented.
Unprecedented, the Attorney General.
It's not.
How is that unprecedented?
First of all, obviously, with the directive that was put out last night, this is all following a very clear legal path. And the great thing about Bill Barr is he's been there before, Laura, as you know, and the only reason he's being he hasn't even made the decisions yet. The only reason why he's being vilified is because he's good. And they know he's good. And they know he's going to make sound decisions. And they know that when they haul him up in front of the Senate and the House to ask him questions, he just plays games with them. He multitasks. He plays with paper clips while he answers their questions.
It's like, is this all you have?
He's
really
ready for this.
I mean, God bless them, but I mean, there's just no match for Bill Barr.
I'm sorry.
If you get a table against like a champ versus like
they're not good enough
player.
to get on the ride.
All right.
But even Mueller said himself that Bill Barr, his letter and the way that he explained and described the report was inaccurate. And
no, he didn't say that. On the call that was transcribed in the notes, it said
that was
no. He didn't say he got it wrong in the conclusion. He thought some of the nuance and the tonality didn't capture the moment. But he didn't say he got it wrong on his conclusion because Barr asked him that in the call.
Where is Mueller? Let Mueller come tell us.
Well, yes, we should.
Private.
Exactly.
We should let Mueller come on. Mueller says, guys, he wants to go in private. But I've got to ask Joel about this impeachment. On again, off again impeachment. Okay, because the Democrats cannot make a decision about what they want to do on impeachment. Let's watch.
The recalcitrance of the president and his lawless behavior is making it more and more difficult to ignore all alternatives, including impeachment.
We are seeing more members that recognize that the administration is acting in a lawless fashion, essentially having obstructed justice is now obstructing Congress.
Ignoring subpoenas, obstruction of justice. Yes, these could be impeachable offenses.
Could, but would, might be, kinda, might get there, but the president wants to be impeached. That's the other line they're using, Joel.
Yeah, no, I think the impeachment question is one where we're watching it unfold in front of us.
What are they waiting for? They have the Mueller report. Why are they waiting? She's obstructing her own investigation.
Well, what they would like, I think, clearly, Democrats, we want to have Mueller up and testifying. We want to have the report fully, publicly vetted. Transparency is key. And if it shows something that should be impeachable, then that's where Democrats will go. Nancy Pelosi has been holding
said there's
back.
nothing impeachable in there.
No, I'm not going to put words in Pelosi's
you don't want
mouth.
Impeachment. Joel, you're too smart.
But
you don't want impeachment.
Pelosi is definitely balancing a lot.
Harmeet, real quick, impeach or not to impeach? That is the question. Are the Democrats going to go anywhere near impeachment, despite all the talk about it?
Well, they shouldn't. You know, there's been a lot of mockery made of Nancy Pelosi and some of her hesitation over this issue, but she's quite smart and she doesn't want to do it. She's being pushed to do it, however, by her unruly left-wing caucus, and ultimately they may end up there, but it would probably be over her objections. It's going to be a political disaster for the Democrats. They shouldn't go there, but as a supporter of the president, you know, if they do, I think it's actually going to strengthen his hand.
All right, panel, thank you so much.